Welcome to the Tied Together podcast, where we feature everyday people doing extraordinary things. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share so others can join in on the conversation too. On today's show, we have the pleasure of hearing from Ricardo Noel. He has taken experiences from his childhood and used them to uplift his community. Of all the teachers in the U.S., Black males only make up 2%, and this man is one of them. He has also taken his love of empowering his people and joined up with 3 fellow HBCU grads to form Hood Educators, a nonprofit geared toward transforming and developing today's urban youth and parents. His passions don't end there, though. You can find Ricardo serving love in the form of Haitian cuisine in Hollis, Queens. Please welcome the man with a heart of gold and Howard University grad, Ricardo Ricky Chef Noel.
Wow, that was an amazing introduction. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. It's weird hearing it in a highlight reel, right?
Right? Listen, I need you around me 24/7. If that's the case.
I'll be your cheerleader, no problem. Listen, Ricardo, what you've been doing in the community has been super dope. First of all, tell me what the acronym HOOD stands for in Hood Educators.
HOOD stands for Holding On to Our Dreams Through Education.
Awesome.
So, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it just really came upon me when I was in like my last year at Howard. And I was just around so many amazing Black, beautiful, intelligent women and men. And one of my boys, he had his nonprofit. And I just never thought about it. I was like, wow, you have a nonprofit. And that just really had my mind going and how I wanted to like impact the community when I left Howard. Mm-hmm. And just understanding where we come from, the element that we come from, and how I always thought about our neighborhoods and how through media and through television, how they just depicted our neighborhoods as, something that was negative. And there's a whole bunch of positive things going on in our neighborhood. And the hood seemed like something that was bad. And I'm like, no, all great things come from the hood. Just think about it. From people that's in positions of power right now, Black athletes, Black academia intellectuals, all of them come from majority of them come from the hood. So I don't know what was the negative image that the hood was always being portrayed as. So I wanted to really turn that around and shed light to all the positive things coming on from our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we always knew that every person in America has dreams. Mm-hmm. And in our neighborhoods, it's the same thing. There's no different. So like, we're holding on to our dreams. And we tend to go after our dreams through exposure, what we're exposed to. And that I realized in our neighborhood, sometimes our exposures, our roadmaps were limited.
Right.
So everyone has ambition, everybody has success, but what are we exposed to bring that success forward? Mm-hmm. And so that was the whole reason why I really thought that coming up with a nonprofit and using myself as like a testimony that there's really great things that come out the hood, mm-hmm. that everybody in the hood have dreams, and it's just about getting the right exposure to fulfill those dreams.
Absolutely. I agree with you when you say exposure is key. In my household, and I've said this on previous episodes, but my mom used to take me from Murdoch and Farmers where I lived. So you lived on the other end of Farmers in mm-hmm. Hollis. And so I grew up on Murdoch and Farmers. And there's not a lot of positive exposure in that neighborhood, not things to look at and say, hey, well, I want to do that right there. There are some things, not to say there's none, but there are some. But my mom, I think she really did my sister and I a service by taking us to other neighborhoods to just go for walks.
Yes.
And I remember walking in these neighborhoods and looking at the houses and thinking, people live here? Like, kids get out of school and they go in these houses. This is like for real. And my mom and my sister would be talking and I would just be in awe, just looking around. And we used to do it pretty often. And it probably took a few walks for me to say to myself, I want to live in a house like this. How do I
Yeah,
get a house like this? But you don't know that. You don't ever think that unless you're exposed to it. So,
absolutely.
right. So I really think that exposure is key. Um, what kind of things is your nonprofit doing to help motivate and expose the youth and parents?
Well, we do a couple of things. So, mind you, with all four members, all four of the founders, we're all educators. We're all Black male educators. So, even just that in itself is empowering. Black male educators, like you mentioned in the beginning, there's less than 2% Black male educators. So being in a position of power like that and being able to work with young minds and showing them that no, yeah, there are Black men out here that are teaching, that are educating. That in itself is transformative. But in addition to that, we do have mentoring programs where we've partnered with community shelters, and we've worked with the young children in the in the shelters. We also have a backpack program that we do every year in the beginning of the school year to provide students with backpacks, give them free haircuts. The girls, we give them free hairstyles as well, to just start the school year off right, feeling good, and just alleviating parents with some of the burdens of getting back to school and getting ready to go to school. Some parents may have 4 children, 3 children, and to get all those resources is a lot. So
Yeah.
just helping out with that, really, for parents, they really take to it, and they're appreciative of it. I think that is also a good thing. In addition to that, we also do, I told you, the mentoring. We do the backpack drive. And then we just work with students, high school students, on like resumes and getting them prepared for like college prep.
That's dope. That's dope. I love of course the mentoring is very important because you have a day in, day out with them and more opportunity to help change their lives. But even the small, the I won't say small, but the quicker engagements you have, like the backpacks and cutting hair and braiding hair, those are not so much long term. It's usually a day of pampering them or giving them something. But even those moments can change those kids' lives, because you never know which kid feels like, wow, somebody cared enough to make sure I had a haircut, or somebody cared enough to make sure I got a backpack. Maybe not all kids are thinking in that way. They're just like, ooh, I got something free. Or they may take I've given out backpacks as well. And in my head, I'm like, they're about to go make paper airplanes with this pack of paper that I just gave them. But it's some joy for them, to be able to just play. It's fine. I
Yes.
hope you use it for school, but even if it's that fleeting moment. And then I've seen in my own events where we've done tie events where I bring males and we teach the young men how to tie their ties. And I do find it life-changing for those young men, because they do see the community come in and care for them, but it also changes your volunteers' lives. They come in, they engage with the children, and they take that with them moving forward. So I think it's really commendable for you to be out in the neighborhood and doing things like that. When you spoke of you said you go to shelters. What kind of work are you doing in the shelters?
Well, same thing, working with children, speaking to them just on academics, doing a chess and basketball program as well with them, teaching them how to play chess, teaching them how to play basketball, teaching them how to critically think. Like chess is a game that really teaches you how to think critically. So doing that, the time of play, and just showing them that there's people, like you said, there's people outside, there's people that's within the community that cares about their upbringing, and to show that sense of love to them. Like
Right.
they're not alone.
Right. What is it about your upbringing that brought you to even start this?
I felt like since since I was a child, like I grew up in a Haitian household. Um, I grew up with my brothers, my mother, my father in Brooklyn. I never felt like we didn't have enough because we always had each other,
Mm-hmm.
and we always had a sense of love and support. So growing up in Crown Heights, um, being being a child of immigrants, first generation Haitian,
Mm-hmm.
my parents did not go to school in America since they were worked at the hotel. My father worked at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. My mother worked at the Parker Meridian. But I never felt as if I didn't have. I didn't care for the latest Jordans until probably I was like in high school. I bought one pair of Jordans and I was like, it's not for me. When I bought it with my own money, I realized like
Right.
this is what everybody's craving and going crazy after. No,
Right.
but it was a sense of community. Like we always had a sense of community in the household,
Mm-hmm.
and even reaching out and giving back to our family back in Haiti. Like we were responsible. My parents were responsible for supporting and sponsoring my
Mm-hmm.
cousins, my uncles, in their education back home in Haiti. So
Got
that sense of community, that sense of giving back, I was always exposed to that.
you. Mm-hmm.
And that one hand washes another. That's my mother used to say that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not here because we're here on the backs of somebody else. Somebody sacrificed for us to be here. And we have to continuously push that forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as I got older, like when I moved out to Queens and we went to 118, and we thinking about 118, our elementary school in our neighborhood, that was an oasis when you
Mm-hmm.
really think back and reflect on it. All your teachers were Black. All your teachers lived in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We had after school programs. We had Hollis Biddy's basketball league. It was very helpful for the girls, very helpful for the boys. We had programs in our neighborhoods. Probably we didn't think about it as a child, but just as I got older as an adult, I was like, wow, these things really impacted my life. And just thinking about one particular teacher, Christopher Murray.
I didn't know him. In 118?
Yeah, he was in 118. He was actually he came in when we were in the 5th grade.
Okay.
And so he was subbing when he came there. Um, just having constant dialogue with him as I got older, because once I got into middle school, I went back to 118 and I started volunteering over there for the PAL and still working with our former teachers. So from there, just being under them and getting all that mentorship and tutelage, I didn't know it was mentoring, but I was just always under them and just in awe at what they did. And Mr. Murray, of course, he took me under his wing, and just constantly dialoguing with him. He exposed. It was directly because of his exposure and looking at a Black male like, yo, he's a teacher and he's cool. He's in the neighborhood playing basketball with us. He's young. He doesn't look any different from me. Like, if he can do it, why can I not do it?
Yeah.
And it was that direct connection that really opened up my world, opened up my perspective to thinking of seeing myself in different places and different things where I never really imagined that to be the case. So he decided one day, he's like, yo, you got to go to, because he went to Howard.
Mm.
So he was like, yo, you got to go to Howard.
Yeah.
I was like, no, my mom's had recently passed away. I was like, no, I'm not going to Howard. I'm not going to leave my pops. I'm not going to leave the hood. I got my friends out here. He's like, yo, your friends are always going to be here. They're just going to be here. You need to go away. I still didn't really listen. He took the application. He literally filled out the application for me. He helped me with the essay. I did the essay part. He helped me with it. And I sent it in and I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, no, I'm not going away. I don't think nothing's gonna happen. And all of a sudden I get a letter back in the mail. I was accepted.
Wow.
University. I've never knew what an HBCU was. I never knew what Howard was. But that in itself was transformative. Him taking out the time to really do that. I don't know if he I don't know if he thought about it, but it was just something that was a norm, you know? You have a child, he's in the neighborhood, you work alongside with him, and you want to see the best for him, just like you would want to see for yourself. And I think that is like an indicative thing when you have teachers that's from the neighborhood that know the pulse of the neighborhood, that understands the children and understand what the children need. And so naturally you're going to provide that because this is your neighborhood as well. And so he was that outlet for me. And then when I got accepted to Howard, that was just transformative in itself. And so I decided, you know, I needed to bring that back. And that's how Hood Educators came along.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that. I was like, well, I'm in this position because somebody took their time out to provide me with a roadmap and expose me to something different.
Yeah.
I need to push that forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that answers your question.
I don't even remember now. I'm so engaged with what you're saying. I really don't even remember the original question. I'm sure I'll watch it back and say, oh yeah, that was it. But no, that's amazing. There are some teachers, at least that's the experience I had in my life. There are some teachers that just really make an impact on your life. For me, I had two teachers that I can think of offhand. I guess if I have to think too hard, then it really didn't resonate. But two teachers, one in elementary school was Miss Hall. Now,
yeah, Miss Hall.
Miss Hall.
Listen,
Dynamic,
that is my baby. Till this day, I was just with Miss Hall the other day.
Yeah.
Like, literally a couple of months ago. All those elementary teachers, they were really like keystones to our upbringing.
Yes.
And you were in my 5th grade class, so.
Yes.
And Miss Hall didn't play.
Oh my gosh.
But she taught with love.
She did. And she really made me feel like she cared. I felt like Miss Hall was my other mother. I really did. I didn't feel like she was my teacher. I felt like if I could get in trouble with Miss Pizarro, which was my 3rd grade teacher, I felt like I could get in trouble with her, and I loved Miss Pizarro. But with Miss Hall, it felt like getting in trouble with my mom, which is a lot more scary. But she definitely encouraged me. She would correct me when I was wrong. She saw that I had a love for writing, and she would encourage that and, you know, fix my grammar when it needed fixing, or my spelling or whatever. And then the second teacher I had, you went to 59, right? You didn't go to 196.
No, I went to 238.
Oh, okay. So have you ever had an experience with the music teacher, Mr. PA?
Mr. PA?
Yeah.
At 238?
Well, he went to different schools. No, he was at 192, and then he was actually in my high school after that. So I didn't know if he moved around to...
No, I'm not familiar with Mr. PA.
Well, I had a music teacher named Mr. PA. And this is the time in my life where I was just very shy. I was shy through my whole childhood. And I would,
remember.
Yes, super shy. It was ridiculous how shy. But I would try to not be seen or be heard. And my teachers, I was a good student and a good kid, so I never really had any friction with my teachers. And I would try to just stay under the radar. And Mr. PA, outside of Mrs. Hall, was the first teacher I felt really saw me for who I was. And he would try to get me to engage. I could sing as a child, but I was too scared to sing. And his class was chorus. So he was, come on, Keisha, sing this song. And that's wonderful. I'm like, if you don't stop calling my name.
Put me on that spotlight.
He's like, try soprano. And I wasn't a soprano, I was an alto. Try soprano. I'm like, now you're going to have me embarrass myself when I'm already shy. But no, you have those teachers that just pull something out of you and really focus on you. And I'm happy to hear that you had an experience with a substitute teacher who wasn't even really a fixture at the school. He was just there sometimes and made that impact.
And later on, he became permanent when I went back to work at the PAL. But when we were there in the 5th grade, he was subbing. But by the time we left, he became a permanent teacher.
Awesome. Why do you think there are so few Black males that are educators in the U.S.?
I don't think it's not an appealing field. Just like we're now getting a surge. Think about like the medical industry, right? Initially, when you think about nurses, you think about a lot of women.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, just as an American culture, just naturally, it wasn't the education field, like, and the nursing field didn't seem, I guess, something for men to do. It didn't seem testosterone filled, you know.
Right.
It was more like a nurturing type of profession
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning. So I think as we evolved as a nation, and we realized, oh no, this is a field for men and women as well. You see more male nurses now. Now you're starting to see more male teachers, but the lack of black male educators, um, for me, I don't think it was something that was appealing until I saw somebody that looked like me. Because no one tells you you can be an educator. Growing up, I didn't think about that. Here, I know in the islands, all our teachers are black. Majority of teachers are black, but here in America, it had a different take. And I never saw myself as an educator until I saw someone that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh wow, if you can do it, I can do it. And the thing is, it's not a cool thing, right? Growing up in the hood, you want to be a basketball player, you want to be a rapper, you want to be the image that you see out on TV and the media all the time. And the image that's portrayed in the media is not education. America does not have a value for education. America values money, and money equates to success in America. So what you saw on TV, being portrayed on TV, was athletes, rappers. They had the money. That was success. So looking at teachers, teachers didn't look like a means of success and money, or even like the nursing field didn't look like a means of success and money when you think about America.
Right.
So I think being able to see somebody in that position that looked like me and made it popular to be in the field of education really got me there. And I think that's just the case, period, in the Black community with educators. Now there's more of an urgency to get more Black male educators, more Black educators, period. And there's programs in schools to help expedite that process. But I wouldn't have been aware of it unless I saw a direct contact. Because sometimes you don't know I didn't know I wanted to be a teacher. Nobody, as a child, you don't know what you're gonna be until you're exposed to that.
Yeah.
And so I think having more exposure to it, being able to see it in media, being able to see it on your TV screens, that will garner people's interest in becoming an educator. But we didn't have that a lot.
I agree. I had a similar but opposite experience growing up. Because my mom exposed me to so much and I realized that I wasn't exposed, I used to ask myself, well, why not? Why can't I? I would see other people, other races, other genders doing things and wonder why Black girls weren't doing it. Why I would be told by people that, no, that's not for you. So as I got older, I did become a teacher for a time. I worked at Allen Christian School for a while. And after doing that, I got into the car business. And in my head, the car business was not for girls. It wasn't for women. It was a man's job. And I was a tomboy growing up. I always wanted to beat the boys at what the boys were doing. And because it seemed to me that females could only play second role to males. That's how the information I was receiving. And I didn't want to be second. I wanted to be first. Even though I was a female, I wanted to be first and female. So I got into the car business and I said, I'm going to be all the boys. That was my train of thought. Because if this is your field and they say that only you're going to dominate in this field, well, I'm going to dominate in this field. As Black, as a female, I'm going to dominate and I'm going to be all the boys. And, not to my own horn, but I did. Through hard work, through being trained, I definitely didn't do it by myself. other people helped me. And then early on in my career in the car business, I did run into a female. She was a white female, but a female nonetheless, which gave me a connection. Like, oh, okay, well, you're doing really good, because she was a finance manager. I said, you're doing really well. So yeah, maybe I can move up too. And I denied myself moving up in the car business. I was offered the opportunity to get into management, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. Nah, I denied it for probably 2 years.
Why do you do that?
Um, my surface level thought was that it was too much work. That was my surface level thought.
Mm-hmm.
But once I really got into why I didn't do it, I just didn't think it was something Black females did. I still, to that time, had not seen a Black female in that
Yeah.
at all.
That exposure is real, man.
Mm-hmm.
That exposure is something that can define you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I got into the finance manager role, and then to the desk manager role, which is just a different form of management in the car business. And as we're starting to hire more people, and we're bringing in males, of course, and we had females coming in, white and Black, I've had the Black females sit me to the side that had never been in the car business before and say, I feel like I can do this because I see you here. I'm like, wow, that's amazing, you know?
Yes.
And I'm glad to have been that representative for someone when I didn't have one for myself, to just see that. So, you know, not seeing something can definitely be a motivator, because it makes you feel like, you know what, well, somebody has to, and it's my turn.
Yes.
You know, but definitely seeing somebody in that field can push you forward, like, yeah, well, I can do this too.
Especially for you, like, it seems like you're an intrinsic motivator. Like, you're intrinsically inclined to push yourself and to be determined. For my case, I wasn't.
Okay.
I need all the outside motivation. I need I need to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see it to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And so any one of those ways can propel you, like you said. So both those things are very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch on that just a little bit, about me being like just naturally motivated. Yes and no. I had to fail a lot first. I had to not be myself for a long time, to finally ask myself, what are you doing? How long are you going to do this? What's your life going to look like?
When did you get to that point?
It started when I was pregnant. That was the first time. Now, I dropped back off after that, but the first time was when I was pregnant and I was in high school. And I told this story yesterday. I was pregnant at 17, and I should have been a senior in high school, and I had 13 credits. I was on 13.
13 credits in high school?
When I should have been a senior. So that on paper would make me a 10th grader.
Yeah.
Right. And I had spent almost 4 years in school, and I wasn't doing the work. And you know me from elementary school. I wasn't a dumb kid.
No. You see my face. You
right.
See my eyes. Were you still in Queens at the time?
Yeah, I was in Queens, but my life had taken such a turn, and I had become rebellious, resentful, angry. I had so much going on from the time that you knew me to high school that I made a 180, because I just didn't like where my life was going. So I became somebody that wasn't even me. So in high school, when I got pregnant and I had 13 credits, in my head I was going to graduate, but how? I wasn't doing anything to apply myself. So when I got pregnant, I said, you know what? I have to do this. And I went to all my teachers. I went to the principal. I said, look, I'm pregnant. I know I don't have a lot of credits. I need to graduate high school. What do I need to do? They laid out a plan. I executed. I graduated that next June.
No, go ahead.
But that was the first time that I said to myself, it is time to become yourself again. And the second time, and I won't make this as long a story, but the second time was after my son's father and I were together. I got comfortable with what I had, and I didn't feel a need to improve myself. I said, you know, I have my son, I have him, I have this little apartment. We don't need anything else. And that's a cute space to be in, but you should always be improving. And then after he passed and I finally got out of the rut, the only way I knew to help myself was to improve myself. So I just started going back up the ladder because I wasn't doing anything and I wasn't going anywhere. All I was going to do was stay stagnant. So that's how that came about, from just failing a lot and doing the wrong thing for a long time. That's how that came about. But
I guess in a sense that was an outside factor that motivated you,
right.
extrinsically and intrinsically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is you being pregnant, you realize, well, if it wasn't for you becoming pregnant, you wouldn't have really thought about
Who knows?
really graduating and getting the things together. So that's like outside motivation, but that pushed you to really finish high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then, unfortunately, with the demise of your child's father,
Mm-hmm.
that also pushed you to do something better with yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think we all have those moments where, we fail at something, we wallow in it, we cry about it, and then you pick yourself up. I would hope that everybody has their pick themselves up moment. What moments have you had in your life where you've had to check yourself and say, Ricardo, you're better than this, and kind of pick yourself up out of that?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good segue. I think I would say my first semester at Howard, right? My first semester at Howard, I came in during the spring term. So people already been acclimated from the fall. They came in already. When you're in college, traditionally you start out in the fall. So by the time school starts, you already came with you've built a group of friends that you know and you're going through the year with. But I came in the middle of the year in the spring. So spring semester, everybody's already clicked up, everybody already know each other, and they're not looking for anybody else. So I'm in DC by myself trying to figure things out. I initially came, I wanted to be in I was in the education department, but not in the right field, or I didn't have the right I wasn't in the right major.
Okay.
They had me as what did they have me as? I think they had me as a counselor, to become a counselor. I wanted to be a teacher, and so just going through the hurdles of trying to figure out where I need to go, where the classes in campus, trying to get my classes together. It was hard because you're coming in the middle of the year. Nobody's really telling you anything. Everybody's already clicked up. Sometimes your professors are telling you go to the A building, the administrative building. You go to the administrative building, they're telling you something totally different. I was like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And I remember getting to the steps and I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm going back to New York. I can't do this. Literally, it's like the steps leading up to the main campus. And as I was coming down the steps, I stood there for a second. Like, I'm leaving. It's way too much. I already told this dude I didn't want to be here. I'm out. But then a thought came in my head. And I really felt till this day, I really feel like it was my mother speaking to me. Because my mother passed away when I was, I think, 18, 19. She had lupus. She had passed away. I went to Howard at 22. So I had finished Queensboro, I got my associates, and then I transferred out to Howard.
Gotcha. Did you do that because you weren't ready to make the transition? Was it because of grades? Why did you go to community college first?
I mean, that was just the avenue.
Okay.
I didn't know any better.
I got you. Okay. People have different reasons, which is why.
No, there was no reason. It was just I graduated. Okay, I'm going to Queensboro. That's what everybody in the hood was doing. It was like 13th grade. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to Queensboro. My man's went to Queensboro, just following the trend.
Right.
He was like, all right, I'm going to Queensboro.
I got you. 13th grade. Go ahead.
Yeah. So after I had graduated from Queensboro, so yeah, back at Howard. So
yeah.
I'm like,
so you felt like it was your mom speaking to you.
Yeah, I stood there for a second. I was like, you can't just go back home. You'd be quitting on yourself. You're failing. So I felt like she spoke to me and like, nah, you gotta go through with it. After that moment where I realized I can't quit, start something, you gotta finish it. I made that decision that I wasn't going to leave And that right there, once I made that decision that I'm gonna follow through and finish it and take the challenges that comes with it, I ran into this girl, Candace Atkins. To this day, that's my homie. I ran into, she was the president of the Student Transfer Association. And so, me being a transfer student, like, I ran into the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that to say, like, God puts you in positions, right? Sometimes you're placed in a difficult position and you don't know why, but you just got to trust the process. You have to believe and trust the process. And God had put me in that position where I was faced with something new I didn't know anything about. And usually when you're faced with things like that, you want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so satisfying and gratifying at the end when you follow through with something, even when you go through the pain and the hurts and the ups and downs, because there's light at the end of the tunnel. And he'll put people in positions to help you see that light, that shimmer that's going to help you get through that tunnel. And Candace was that shimmer for me. Like, once I met with Candace, she literally like laid out how I needed to get my credits transferred, how I needed to navigate through the school and get the proper classes that I needed. And literally from that day, my whole Howard experience was totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different. So I think those were one of my moments that really made me realize, like, even when you're going through hardship, like, you gotta trust the process. You have to have a level of faith. And sometimes it's blind faith, but you have to have a level of conviction that everything is going to be all right. And there will be things and people in position and places to help you get through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you got to go through the process.
Yeah. This may sound simplistic, but do you think that changing your life, that the first step is as easy as a decision?
Changing your life is the first step. Say that again.
In changing your life,
Mm-hmm.
so the end result is a life change.
Yes.
Do you think that the first step toward that goal is as easy as making a decision, deciding to go right or to go left?
I think the decision is the most important step. Because I'm a believer in the universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do make a decision, and you make a decision with, I guess, make a decision with your conviction, and you're gonna follow through on that decision. That decision that you make, that thought, that idea, you've already expressed that and communicated that with the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like part of the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Whether good or bad, whatever decision you decide to make, there's consequences for every decision, whether good or bad. But that decision that you make will impact how your life turns out. And the universe is you're constantly sending information out to the universe, and the universe is receiving it and sending it back out to you. So the energy is basically the saying, the energy that you put out is the energy that you're going to get in. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer of that. And so a decision that one person makes in life, that's the most important thing that they can do that can transform their lives, either for positive or negative outcome. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yes, to your question, yes, the decision is a very critical and important part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that you just have to decide what you want for yourself. And it's funny that life will take you on different paths. So you make a decision, let's say to eat eggs, and you'll wind up, and I'm just giving you a weird metaphor, but you decide to eat eggs, and at the end of the day, you're having filet mignon because it went in so many different directions.
Yes.
So you make that decision today and with a goal in mind, but it can become so much grander than you ever imagined.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Like the decision that I took to go to Howard after, like, he, I guess, supplicated and did everything that he had to do to influence me to go, and I made that decision. Okay, I'm gonna go. that changed I never thought I'd be in the position that I'm in right now, doing all the things that I did. But that decision transformed my entire life, and it led to the filet mignon, like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, you
Absolutely.
had the eggs. I'm thinking about Biggie's song. Like when I speak, I think about songs at the same time. So like, I'm thinking about the T-bone steak. You had the eggs, and now you got the T-bone steak, and you got the Welch's grape. It's like, yo, this is it right here.
Right.
But no, it does. It really impacts you. That one decision that you decide to make with your life changes your whole trajectory, for good or for bad.
Yep. Yep. Let me ask you, and I don't know if you ever looked at it like this, but you come from even as a child, I knew you had two good parents. And I could see it, you know. What do you see any difference in yourself having two good parents coming from a two-parent household and some of the children that you are helping that have a one-parent household? And how do you hope to help them in the differences that you may see?
Um, I would say this. I wasn't any different from the students that had a one parent household, because we did the same. I'm thinking about my childhood and like my friends,
Mm-hmm.
my friends in the hood, my friends in the neighborhood, like thinking about their lives in relationship to my life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I had both my parents. I had my mother and my father.
Mm-hmm.
That was the major difference in me ending up doing something that could have been detrimental to my life.
Yeah.
Um, when I look back, I think about my boys that has gotten locked up or that's doing time right now. The major difference is having that two-parent household.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was no different from them,
Right.
but because I had my father in my life, like, and he lived with me, like my mother and father was right there.
Mm-hmm.
That stopped me from doing a lot of the crap that I could probably have gotten into.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about the factor, that's the only factor,
Mm-hmm.
and the exposure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having somebody that exposed me to something different.
Mm-hmm.
Because even with my moms and my pops in my life, I could have definitely still ended up getting locked up and doing something totally different from what I'm doing now.
Oh yeah.
But because I had exposure at the time that I did, and that opened up my world, I wasn't just relegated to being on the corner. I wasn't just relegated to hanging out in the street.
Mm-hmm.
I had other things to do with my time.
Right.
But I think that was it. Like having a mentor, not even knowing it was a mentor at the case, and then really having my father there,
Mm-hmm.
that stopped me from getting into the things that most of my peers and friends got into when I was in like junior high school and high school.
Right.
So I think those are the two factors in a child's upbringing.
Right.
Like being able to have a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
and having two active parents in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and now you are that mentor for other people, for other children. So from my childhood, I grew up in a single parent household. My father was involved in my life, but he wasn't in the house or in the state. So it wasn't a regular day to day. And at times I did feel like I was missing out. And once I became pregnant, I started becoming familiar with statistics. And what is more likely for a single parent household, what is more likely for a pregnant teenager. And I still had that winning mindset, like, no, just because you said that I'm not likely to do this or I am likely to do that doesn't mean I have to.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when I saw the stats for a single mother or for a pregnant teenager or a daughter with no father in the household, I said to myself, not me. It's not going to be me. And somebody actually said to me when I was pregnant, he said, you ain't nothing but a statistic now. I was like, the nerve.
That's like the worst anything a person can say. Like I don't understand how people really don't understand how your words really have power. Like
Mm-hmm.
it can make or break somebody. You
Yes.
can lift somebody up or you can destroy somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it says in the Bible, what it says that the tongue is a
Life and
very,
death and the power of the tongue.
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
like it can destroy or create.
Yes.
And sometimes some people in our communities, because of the lack of education and just the sheer ignorance,
Mm-hmm.
they'll say things and not really understanding how that can really impact a child.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that anybody in any community that can tell you something like that has the same belief about themselves, the
Yes,
same limiting
absolutely.
belief about themselves. Because
Hmm.
anybody that believes that they are capable of anything believes that in other people. I
Yes,
truly, and one thing I give credit to both my parents is that they always told me that I could do anything I want, and not in some run of the mill, like, oh, you can do anything you want to do and then go about their business. They would look me in my eyes and say, Keisha, you can do anything, anything. And I believed them. I bought in. I said, I can do anything. I said, what about president? And I would ask them like off the wall things. What about president? They said, if you want to be, yeah, you can. I said, what about an astronaut? Yeah, you can be. And as a young child, a small girl, I believed them. I believe that about myself. And I believe that about myself to this day, that anything I want to do, there's going to come work and it's going to be hard and it's going to be rocky, but I believe that I can. And I didn't buy into that guy when he told me I was nothing but a statistic. All I thought was, I'm going to show you what the
and you
statistic
know
would.
why? Because your parents fostered that in you
Yes.
from day one.
Yes.
So you had the defense to like
Mm-hmm.
swat that away. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nah, you're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna you're not gonna project that onto me. That's not me.
It's not my story.
Absolutely. And I think if a lot of parents are like your parents, not limiting a child despite their own limitations,
Mm-hmm.
like as a group, as a people would be so much better off. But we,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, we often project our own insecurities
Mm-hmm.
on everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we can't lead that way.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to any youth or even, older adults that are watching whose parents did speak defeat into them, who did not uplift them, and they don't have a backing that's empowering them? What would you say to them about their own self-talk?
I mean, the thing I can think about is every day you're afforded the opportunity and you're blessed with life. You're blessed with the ability to breathe and wake up. And that can be something very simplistic and we don't take time to think about it. But every time we're up, somebody didn't wake up. So every time we're up, we have an ability to start fresh, to start new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to happen overnight, but you take baby steps. Every day that you're here on this earth is an opportunity for you to do something great, for you to transform your life, for you to take a step to do something that's going to help you become a better person. Um, and just take baby steps. I feel that if we really think about it in that granular of an idea, that yo, you woke up this morning. Not everybody in the world woke up. There's something special and unique about you that made you wake up. What are you gonna do with that?
Yes.
And keep that in mind, and keep your thoughts on what you want to work on for that day or what you want to work on for that week, and just start inching at it little by little. It doesn't have to. You don't have to do everything overnight. You don't have to do it within the week, but work towards it. And like I said, the universe will respond to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be my message.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I heard a saying, and years ago, I don't remember who said it, that throw your own party, celebrate yourself. I've also
Mm-hmm.
heard be your own hero. So anybody that knows me knows I celebrate everything.
Yes.
Everything. If I started a job, oh, we partying. If I quit a job, we partying. If I got a new beater, when I bought my like $1,400 Nissan Maxima. We celebrated. I'm celebrating everything. And I had a friend once that said, you shouldn't party all the time because you need to save for your future. I agree. You should not go overboard and break your pockets. But celebration can look a lot of different ways. It could be a little cupcake or whatever. So while I agree with his train of thought that you shouldn't be throwing money away, partying every weekend, clubbing and all of that, I do believe in celebrating yourself. If nobody's going to party with you, celebrate yourself. Because if you died tomorrow, saving up for your retirement, what did you do with today? So celebrate your win. So if you don't have that backing, that cheerleader squad, party for yourself. I bought myself roses the other day because I can.
And because you deserve. You don't need anybody else. You don't need anyone else to validate who you are.
They're so pretty. They smell so good. And I love walking in and seeing them. Don't wait for other people to validate who you are, to celebrate what you're doing. Everything celebrated as a win. If you just could never muster the energy to do push-ups in the morning and you did 3 today, listen, cheer yourself on.
You did better than not doing anything at all.
Yes.
Like, that's a perfect analogy. Like, being transparent, right? I've been on the workout kick and been trying to be consistent every day. And right now, like, I'm on my pull-ups where I'm only doing like probably my first set. I'm doing like 4 or 5 pull-ups. Mm-hmm. But I showed up. Before I couldn't do any before. Right. And now I'm doing like 2 or 3 with no issues. So that's a win. Absolutely. You got to celebrate those wins. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm inching towards that. Mm-hmm. And that's the mindset you have to have. You're not going to conquer everything in a day. Right. You're not going to conquer it in a week. You may not conquer it in a year, but as long as you continue to stay at it, mm-hmm. you will yield the results. Yeah. And in the interim, while you're doing that, like you said, you need to celebrate that. Because before you weren't there. If you look back, you're not the same person that you were when you started. Right. So I definitely agree with you 100%. Yeah. You have been running around the neighborhood. You've been exercising and you've lost a massive amount of weight. And I'm sure you feel different. I'm sure your experiences are different. You just talked about the pull-ups. I'm sure even the running. What's this motivating factor? Why are you working out now? What is that? I've always worked out, but when I came back from Howard, when I graduated Howard, before I went into Howard, all right, let me go back to high school, right? I graduated high school, I was like 230. Mm-hmm. I went to the doctor was like, yo, you're too big. I was like, okay, well, I guess I need to work out. But I had older brothers, so they always used to work out. My oldest brother always used to like bench press, and he had a bench in the backyard. So I started, and he always used to run a lot too. So I call him the Haitian Kenyan. I swear he runs like a Kenyan. I swear my parents probably got him from Kenya and adopted him and said he's because he literally runs like 14 miles a day. I don't know how he does it. But so when the doctor told me in high school that I needed to lose weight, I was always active. We always played ball, football, basketball. So I was very intentional in working out outside of like playing ball and basketball. I would like run around the field. I had like a big field in front of my house. So I would run around the field, the back blocks. Mm-hmm. I would run around the field and I lost by the time summer 07 came, I was $165, $165, $170. From 230? Yeah, from 230 to like $165, $170. And I had stopped eating meat. I became a pescatarian. I had stopped eating meat for a minute, and then when I started eating meat again, I became a pescatarian. And then I went to Howard spring of 08. So summer 07, I was like $165, $170. Going to Howard, I'm probably like $175. And by the time I left Howard in 2012, like being a pescatarian is not cheap. Joy, is really expensive. Being a college student is not cheap. Mm-hmm. So it was either I was gonna get books or get some, expensive meals to support my diet. And I was like, oh no, I can't do this. And then McDonald's was down the block, literally from my dorm. So I was eating a dollar chicken sandwich every day from McDonald's. Typical college student life.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a grown ass person by the time I was 22. Because I know freshman 15. By the time I graduated Howard, I get a freshman whopping 100. I left Howard at 285.
Wow.
So literally, like my 4 years at Howard, I gained 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so by the time I came back here, it was quarantine. Like I was working out, but I wasn't consistent because there's so much things going on. I wasn't able to put that time in. And literally, like last year, I really took the decision, like, I really need to change like my habits and become more consistent with my health. And then quarantine, fast forward to coronavirus, it really propelled that determination for me to really get back on my health and wellness. So after I was done teaching, like doing remote learning, I had time to go work out because I'm teaching at home. So I'm working out, I'm running in the morning and then teaching afterwards, or I'm running afterwards. After I'm done teaching, I'm running, I'm working out. So it's that the quarantine impacted my health a lot for the good. Yeah, and that was it. And that motivated me to just continue working out. I had the right people around me. And we just started working out every day.
Mm-hmm. When you started working out last year, what was that shift? What told you, Ricardo, now is the time?
I was looking at my brother, my older brother.
Mm-hmm.
My older brother was probably like 380 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And he started changing. And I'm gonna be totally transparent and real with you, right? Because he's the biggest one in the family. He was at least the biggest one in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And he changed his diet. He became really consistent, and he was dropping weight. I'm like, yo, what is this dude doing? I'm watching this dude. I'm seeing him lose weight. I'm like, oh no, you're not gonna be smaller than me. It was my sheer ego, literally. And it was like, oh nah. When we go to Haiti, no, our family members not gonna call me the fat one. No, you're the fat one. And so that was really like one of the key motivating factors. Like he really showed me that you can if you're consistent. And he wasn't even working out at the time. He just really changed his diet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're consistent enough with the things that you do, it will yield results. So watching him and seeing how he changed his diet, and then he started incorporating the workouts, that motivated me to do the same. And with my ego, I'm like, nah, you ain't gonna be smaller than me, bro.
That's right. That's okay. But listen, whatever's the motivator. Ego has motivated a lot.
Yo, ego is the key motivation for me because I could definitely be egotistical. So with that, I was like, oh nah. And I just got back on my workout tip. And then we started working out together and this is what I was telling you earlier with the quarantine, as a family unit, we became even tighter. And so we would work out together, eat together, pray together. And then that started pouring outwards. I started seeing my friends doing the same thing. My boys, like I would work out with them, like, yo, let's go work out, let's go to the track. And then it created just a workout lifestyle. Like now it's more of a lifestyle than just a fad or something that I'm just doing. If I don't work out, I don't feel right.
Yeah. I think what is a super key to what you were just saying was now that you've started working out, that you have realized that there are people doing the same thing that you're doing and you're able to join in with them. What I think is amazing about that is even just a year ago, I felt like my circle was very limited. I do value the people that are in my circle, but I wanted to expand my circle. Yes. I wanted to meet people with grander ideas that are doing the things that I wanted to do. And I'm racking my brain, like, where do I go? Where do I hang out? How do I meet these people? And I had given up on that idea and just started doing the things that I enjoyed. And I heard this before. I've heard, do the thing you enjoy, you'll meet other people. But I didn't believe that. But I started doing the things that really meant something to me. And the people that I have met through the journey are amazing.
But what does that go back to? That's a testament of what we're talking about earlier. That when you put something out in the universe, it's gonna come right back to you.
Yes.
You started with yourself.
Yes.
Like the universe, it's a receptor to really like solidifying what you're doing, and just pushing that energy back onto you and affirming you, telling you that no, you're on the right path. And really, I'm a firm believer in that, because it really is true, just based on what you just told me, and just thinking about my life, like really putting things out there and doing things. Sometimes for you attract other people like that.
Right.
Like really, before I started really running like that, I was, coming from the neighborhood, I'm thinking, well, running is relegated to white people run. You don't see black people. You see some black people running in the neighborhood, but you don't really see that a lot.
No.
I didn't see it a lot. And it's not portrayed in the media as something that we do. But when I started doing it, guess what? I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of black runners out here. There's a lot of black people that really run.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring that in the community as well. Like going back to the neighborhood, like running around the neighborhood, working out in the neighborhood, like even at the traffic light, doing my pull-ups on the traffic light. You want to put the energy out there so people are seeing that, well, if he's doing it, why can I not do it?
Right.
You know? And I always want to project the positive things that are happening in the neighborhood, right? And so just doing that, and then people in the neighborhood cheering you on while you do that, that in itself is something that's amazing, right? And that's uplifting, because usually you don't witness that. You walk in our neighborhood, you think about people grilling you all the time. Like, yo, what is she looking at? Or what is he looking at? But because we're coming from the mindset of like a negative mindset all the time, but if you project that positivity, it'll come back to you.
Yep. You start celebrating yourself and other people start celebrating you.
Yeah, like, yo, I'm doing the pull-ups, dude just cheer me on, like, yeah, one more, you can do one more. And I'm like, if I was just walking down the block, just think about it. If I was walking down the block and just walking, would I be looking at this dude differently? Would I be looking at him like, is this dude mean mugging me?
Right. You put out that energy.
Yeah, so it's really about putting that positive energy out there, and you're gonna yield that. You're gonna get that back. I really believe that.
Yeah, you've been putting out vibes in the hood for a long time. Good vibes in the hood for a long time. I got the pleasure of coming to one of your famous cookouts that you've held annually for, I think, over 20 years now.
Yeah,
for a long time. And there is a love of food that comes from your household, a love of good food that comes from your household. And you seem to have translated that into your own new company. Tell me what you got going on.
Oh, well, I have this, it's a little mom and pop shop, Liz and Chef's Cuisine. It just spawned out because I was thinking, my cousin just came into the country about probably like 4 years ago, right? And she resides here with us, and my house has always been known as the house with like good food. So people would always come over, would always eat, and they loved the food. They were like, yo, Asian food is so good. How did your mom know how to cook like this? And even when I went away to school, I didn't even know I know how to cook until I had gone away. And I was like, yo, well, I got to eat. So I just started cooking, and I realized, oh, wow, I can cook. Just looking at my mother over the time, like doing all the things that she used to do in the kitchen. Like, she raised us, so we had to prepare the food, prepare the meat before she cooked. So having all those ingrained in me, when I went away to college, I was using I used that same knowledge, and I started cooking, and people was loving it. And then coming back home, people always loved my cooking. So I decided, you know what? with my cousin being here and not really having a job, especially with COVID being out, and not really wanting to put her in harm's way, like because she worked with like the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to put her at risk nor the elderly at risk, well, for the virus. So we decided, you know what, and we were cooking at home a lot, and I would find myself posting the meals, on social media, and people are loving it and liking it. And so I said, you know what, let's just start selling these meals. Let's see what happens. Let's make these meals and see people love them so much and see if they'll support. And like surprisingly, people were buying the meals and because they loved it so much. And when people eat our food, they're like, they've never had this type of food before. And Haitian food, when you look at Haitian food, sometimes you can see it tastes good, but sometimes if you're not aware, you don't know it, it may not look appealing to you. So you're like, what is this? I can think about when I first saw, what do you call that? Banana, what is that? Banana pudding, right? Mm-hmm. I used to see it in the store a lot. It used to look yellowish. I'm like, what the heck is that? They used to have like the wafers on. I'm like, that looks disgusting. But my homegirl made me a banana pudding one day, and I was like, yo, this is bomb. I'm like, this is what I used to see at the store all the time.
Right.
So just really presenting Haitian cuisine in a way that's appealing to people and just getting the Haitian culture out there, mm-hmm. and having people look at Haitian food in a different light. Because people eat the food, they didn't know what type of food they were eating, and they would see that, oh, like, I don't like Haitian food, Haitian food. But now that they see it and they know and they know that the person that's making it, they're used to that person, so they're willing to try something new, right? So with that, we're like, you know what? We're gonna train and develop people's palates to a different taste, a unique Haitian cuisine taste, traditional Haitian food, and people were really started gravitating to it. Initially, you have people that support you just because you're starting an initiative and they want to support. But I told them, no, I don't want you to support just to support it. I want you to, indulge in it as if it's something that you would do at any restaurant that you were dining in, that you really wanted that food. And so first time they supported, and then when they came back, they're like, yo, this food is it. This food is hidden. And so we picked up and started running. It's been like 7 weeks now. This is the eighth week. And we've been filling over like 40 to 60 orders on average, like 40 to 60 orders every Friday. And it's been great, and it was a way for my cousin as well to really show her that the skills that she has is not mundane, because my cousin can do a lot of great things, but it's a norm to her to cook. Like, she grew up like in Haiti, like, no, you're growing up, you're cooking, you're doing hair. As a child, you're going to school, but you're cooking at the age of like 7 for the family. Like, you're braiding everybody in the neighborhood's hair. Like, you're doing all of these things. And she didn't see this as an asset. She saw it as something that is a norm and didn't really think that it was something that's valued. I told her, here in America, no, this is something that's an asset for you, and you can really turn this into something that you don't know where it can take you in the future, but it's a skill that's needed and that has value.
Yeah.
And you can capitalize on it.
Isn't it weird? I don't know if weird's the right word, but we all have our own skill set, something that we're amazing at, right? Isn't it weird how we think that it's normal and we downplay it and then look for something else to do?
Yes.
Isn't that funny?
And while people are looking at it as something that is amazing.
Right.
And to you, it's like, no, it's a norm.
It's just regular. It's regular for you. It's regular for you. Your purpose lies in something that it just comes naturally to you. It's something that you just do, and you do find enjoyment in it. But because you do it all the time, it just seems like, oh, everybody can do this. No, everybody can't do that.
No, everybody cannot do it.
No, everybody can't do that. You do that. Take that and capitalize.
Absolutely. And I think as well, and this is what I was thinking back, especially like coming from like a Caribbean household, you can never do something that's right? Even if it's bomb, it's never right. And our parents
Yes,
mean well.
they do.
Like, your words have power,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so my aunt's eyes, like, she can't cook. She's the worst cook ever, right? But everybody else loves her cooking, like, loves her food. And it's not, it's not their intention to do that, but they don't understand, like, when you encourage somebody, you empower them to see themselves past their current state.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you're a perfect example, right? Because you were fostered with the idea that you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't allow anybody to tell you no,
Right.
or the current state that you're in is where you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so with her, you know, my aunt would always never would downplay her cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just something with Black people in general. We're
It
always
is.
down.
It is, but Caribbean people, because my family's Jamaican,
Yeah.
we get some weird compliments, boy, and they are
No.
hard to come by, and you will get beat up in a Caribbean household. I'll bring home a 90 from school. I should have got a 95. I bring home a
Oh my
95. I should have
goodness.
got 100.
It's never
Why didn't
enough.
you get extra credit on that 100? It's like, listen, I did good. Can I celebrate with me?
Can you acknowledge that?
No. Go read a book.
There's no source of acknowledgement. And so when I think about that, I think about her, it's like she didn't really understand how those skills were really valuable,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
how those skills are transformative as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now she's feeling empowered. She's feeling like she's feeling like a contributing member to the household, contributing member to society, and just through cooking.
Why do you do that? Why do you feel the need to empower people? Where does that come from?
What's so crazy? I was just having this conversation the other day. It comes from my mother. My mother was really a person. Like, I really, like, she was an angel, like a living angel. And I really say that, not just because she was my mother, but just the life that she lived. Like, her whole purpose in life was to really care for other people, like empower other people. And I didn't get it at first, but that's how she got her joy. Seeing other people smile, seeing other people feeling successful. Like, as long as she saw your success, that was her success.
Yeah.
And my mother always has been a person that just looked out for her family, for friends. Like, just growing up, like I told you, like, we're responsible, like, for our family members back in Haiti. Like, she took care of the family here. She took care of my father's family in Haiti. She took care of my mother, her own family in Haiti. Like, all three sides of the family. Like, my maternal grandfather, my maternal grandmother, and then my father's side. Like, she knew all their shoe sizes. You make a barrel, you send back home. Like, she was more a sister to my father's sisters than to their own brother,
Right.
to my father, because I don't know, she was just so giving, right? And in that spirit of giving, people, every time I go back to Haiti and I look back and they tell me stories of how, from my father's side of the family to her side of the family, like, how that she really impacted their lives. It's just amazing to hear. And sometimes, I get teary-eyed just hearing it, because they look at me and they say, I remind them of that. I'm just thinking, like, my mother was, at one point I had like 16 people living in my house. 16 people. And it was only my mother and father working. Well, never felt like we didn't have anything. I mean, it was like 9 boys, 1 girl, and three parents, 3 set of parents. Um, and it was just my mother and father working. They never complained. You would never thought that it was just my mother and father paying the bills for 16 people. 3 gallons of milk went out for breakfast.
You know, that I'm thinking about it now. That narrative needs to be changed about Black people not supporting each other,
Oh yeah, that's
because
a lie.
it's not true. It's not my
No,
household.
that's a
My
myth.
mom, brought some people in that stayed with us. She raised a cousin of mine like her son. You couldn't tell
Hmm.
any of us that that's not my brother. It is.
Yes,
It is.
yes, and that's exactly how we grew up.
Right. And I just witnessed that through my childhood, through my adulthood. I've tried to offer that to other people as well. And there is a lot of that in our community where we're like, oh, you don't got nowhere to live? Come on, let's go. You live here now.
Hmm.
When I was pregnant, being rebellious still, because I was still a child, I wanted to live with my son's father's family. I didn't want to stay at home. I'm grown. I'm out. I was wrong. but, but, you know, Sean's mom accepted me with open arms, but she was that way. She is that way. It didn't matter if she had $10 a one. If you needed somewhere to stay, you could stay in her house. And I do hear that perpetuated a lot on social media and in the media. We need to support Black people more. We do. We do. We do. We do. We take care of each other for real.
Yes, we do, and I think we need to highlight that more.
Yes, I agree. And I actually didn't think about it. I thought about it as normal. That's what it was. I thought about it as like, oh, okay, people just do that sometimes. Not really, but what we do
No,
in our community.
in our community we do, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not something, and that's something unique within our community.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find that everywhere
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
American society.
Right. And not just family, just friends, people you meet along the
Yes,
way. Just
literally, this dude, he came in the house, don't know him, like that was like a friend of my father's my father's brother's friend. Somehow he found our address. This dude came in the house really sickly,
oh.
and he was like, he had no place to stay, nothing. My mother took this guy in, and there was like talks of him probably having HIV or whatever the case may be. We don't know. I really don't know, but it was something. It was something that he apparent. It was very apparent that he was sickly.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't stop my mother from taking him in,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother didn't know him from a hole in the wall.
Right.
She sat us down. She was like, you know what? This guy has no place to go. He's gonna be living here. Um, she's like, this is gonna be his bowl. Like she showed us exactly the bowls that he's gonna be using. Don't touch those bowls and stuff like that. But my mother cooks for this man every day.
Mm.
First of all, shout out to my father for just like
Shout out to
allowing
Pops.
that, right?
Right.
But it was her spirit of just giving back. This dude came in sick and he said he had no place to go. His skin was all just tore up. And she took him in.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, you have 3 children in the household. You could have been endangering
Mm-hmm.
us, but she didn't look at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to help this man out.
Mm-hmm.
Literally every day, she would cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and have his meal set aside
Mm-hmm.
for months on end.
Mm-hmm.
By the time this dude was leaving our house, he left a different man.
Wow.
He didn't look sickly anymore. He wasn't. And one time I ran into him in a gym. This dude was cock diesel, and he came in like a broomstick.
Wow.
And by
It's
the time
amazing.
I saw him in the gym, my mother had already passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But she did that. She didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
She did that.
I want you to know something about yourself that I don't know if you do know. Maybe you do. But you've always had this like light and joy about you. You've always exuded that energy of positivity. And when people come around you, they're smiling because you're smiling. You were always smiling. You're always a happy kid and you always put that out there. And you mentioned something earlier that, well, you didn't want people to support you just because you were starting something new. I want you to know that that's not always the case. When people start something new, people don't always jump on board. One, they've had your family's food. It's delicious, okay? 2, you are a major supporter. You are always putting that energy out there of supporting people and giving back and things like that. It's only right that it comes back to you. It's only right, because you put that out so much that when you start something, they're like, oh, Ricardo's starting something. Listen, major supporter, let's go hit him up. You've put that out in the energy and in the universe. And I want you to know that you're deserving of all of it and more.
Thank
Because of who
you.
you are. You're welcome.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. Like I don't like I don't do things. I don't do things just like for the hype or for the publicity, right? I do
Everyone
things.
knows that.
I do it because I feel like if you're, and just like I said with my mother, I think if you're successful, I'm happy because you're successful.
Mm-hmm.
That brings me joy to see people in their own state of happiness, right? Mm-hmm. And I always, for some reason, that brings me great joy, and I always want to perpetuate that. I always want that, because who wants to be around who doesn't? I don't know a person that don't want people around them happy.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I feel like that in itself is transformative. Like, it's uplifting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't I? What I want for myself, I want for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. I think that anybody that knows you knows that you are genuine, and anybody that's watching that doesn't know you, I'm going to tell you, your motives always come across as genuine. They never come across as self-serving. And I had this conversation with somebody the other day in forming the nonprofit, and I'm always checking myself emotionally and spiritually, like, why are you doing this? Make sure your motives are pure. And I ask myself, is there anything selfish about what you're doing? And the only way I could think that I'm being selfish is that it really just makes me feel good. So if that's selfish, then I guess I'll take that.
Yeah.
But I think that you do the same thing. It just really makes you feel good. You enjoy seeing other people get the benefits of your motivation, your food, your mentoring and things like that. And it definitely comes off as genuine.
Absolutely, because I feel like I was that kid. You know, I'm here, and honestly, that's what it comes back to. Like, I'm here. I'm not here just off my own merit.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are here just off our own merit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to continuously push that forward if you can.
Yeah.
And I try to live like that. Like, I'm where I'm at right now because my aunt decided, you know what, she's gonna allow my father to stay, give him a place to stay in the States, in America.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, my father was able to bring my mother along, and we're here off the backs of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I made it through Howard, I made it through college because somebody took the time and invested in me.
Yes.
You gotta push that, you gotta put that back out there.
Yep.
And that's how a community thrives.
Yep.
And I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
Anything else, I feel like it would be defeating the purpose and defeating our community, because we're nothing without each other.
I agree.
And that's that Ubuntu saying, I am because you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I solely believe in that. Like, without you, I don't exist. Without me, you don't exist. We need to be fully working together to really become a unit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ricardo, tell me what's next up for you. What's up next up for Educators, teaching, or the Haitian cuisine? What you got coming next?
Yo, honestly, I'm gonna be so honest with you. I'm a person, and this is probably like a downfall to me as well. I'm not a planner. I don't plan things. And it's, I guess you can tell with with the back and forth with the emails and stuff. Like, I don't really plan things. I get inspirations and things just happen. Like, because I really feel like I'm so in tune with the universe, and I go with the way I'm feeling, with the vibe that I'm getting. And when I get a certain feeling or a certain ideation, and if I feel like it's affirmed with the universe, I go with it. I don't really set things and have certain goals. It's like till recent I started doing that. Like, okay, what's my 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and things of that nature. But outside of that, everything that I've done to this point in my life, it was not planned.
Mm.
It was just an idea that I had, and I ran with it.
Got you.
And it was an idea that was based with love.
Mm.
Like, I feel like anything that you are doing, if you're doing it out of love, you're going to reap the benefits of it.
Absolutely.
There's going to be hardships with it, but at the end, you will reap the benefits. And I think in the interim, that's when the planning begins, right? But I don't initially come at something, like, I'm not goal driven. Not saying you're not supposed to be goal driven, but I'm not driven by like certain goals. At this point in my life, I want to do this. Because at the end of the day, you don't know where life is going to take you.
That is true.
You want to flesh out a skeletal plan, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you're trying to do this one thing, but everything else is leading you to the direction of another thing. But because you had this implanted in your head that this is what you have to do and this is the only way you're going about doing it, you're missing all the blessings.
You're right.
That comes around you.
You're right. I am a very goal-driven person. I write it all down. I want it this way. I want that, and blah, blah, blah. But I have learned and need to keep learning how to be a little bit more flexible.
Yes.
In how things are going to turn out. Because I've definitely had disappointments of, I wanted my life to be this, and it's not. And I sit there and I wallow in sadness and pity for myself that it's not turning out the way I wanted, and not appreciating where the journey is actually taking me. So I can appreciate what you're saying about, just being a little bit more fluid and going with the flow.
Yes. This is not saying that you shouldn't plan things. You should plan things. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But keep in mind the things that you plan is not always going to work out that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that other things will come that may show you that, this is not the plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the plan that you thought that was going to work out. This is not it. You gotta change course. Mm-hmm. And you got to be ready to change that course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with me, I'm learning how to become more of a planner because that's naturally not me, right? Mm-hmm. So I do write things down. I fish them out. I sort them out. But that's not naturally me.
I got you. Something you're working on. So I'm working on being more flexible. You're working on writing things down and being a little bit more goal oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yes. Gotcha. But yeah, like, honestly, I can say that I've been just truly blessed. Like, having people around me that love and support me, having a tight circle. I'm blessed. I can't stress that enough. And every time I talk to somebody, I tell them that I'm really blessed because I'm fortunate to have people around me that want to see me succeed.
Yeah, it is a blessing. It is a blessing. And one that I definitely don't take for granted. And even if you have one supporter, it's a blessing. It really is. And don't look for the 50 people. Maybe one day you'll get 50, who knows? But if you have one,
that's all you need.
Yeah. Be happy about that. Where can the people find Hood Educators?
Well, they can find Hood Educators on Instagram right now and on Facebook.
What's the handle?
At Hood Educators.
Gotcha.
Hood Educators, literally, that's it. You can find that on Facebook and on Instagram. Right now, this would be the time our cookout should have been coming up, mm-hmm. but because of the pandemic, we had to put that on hold, which really stopped our fundraising for the backpack drive. So right now, we're trying to figure out how we're gonna go about doing the backpack drive, if it's something that's going to still happen with social distancing. It's a lot that we're trying to figure out, and even like working with the shelters, it's been a lot with this pandemic. So we've really been right now on a standstill. But then that's how that transformed into the Hood Fit. Now we've been working out in the neighborhood, and showing like different parts of the neighborhood and how people in the neighborhood are taking back their health and really being more health conscious and elevating that.
And if people want to run with you or work out with you, where can they find you?
They can find me at Mr. Hood Educator on Instagram, or you can hit up Hood Educators. And yeah, it's open to everyone and anyone, like, because we want to promote that.
Yeah.
Health is wealth. Health is literally wealth, especially at this time and age in our lives. Health is literally wealth. Now I really understand the saying.
Yeah, because imagine, yes, healthy people are coming down with COVID, but you are defending yourself better if you are in a healthy physical state and mindset,
Mindset,
but,
state.
Yes, if you have to set up your defenses. It's not to say that healthy people don't get COVID and get really sick and unfortunately pass away, but you are more likely to overcome any kind of health issues, right? Any kind of disease if you have set up your defense system. So I think that's awesome. That's awesome. Ricardo, is there a quote that you live by?
A couple of them. I mentioned them throughout. Like, one hand washes the other hand. I really feel like, and that was my mother's saying. The Ubuntu philosophy of I am because we are, I think that really speaks a lot of volume, right? I don't exist without the people that has come before me or the people that's around me. Mm-hmm. Without my community, I am nobody. I'm not the set all be all. I'm not it. Without the people around me, without my family, without my community, without the people that have made sacrifices, I wouldn't be here. So I am because you are.
Amen.
It shows my existence. It shows your existence. Without that, we don't exist. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I try to live by that philosophy and try to spread that as much as possible. If I'm here doing what I'm doing, it's not because I'm better than you. It's not because I'm smarter than you. I definitely wasn't the smartest kid. I wasn't, but I've been exposed to certain things, and I want to provide that same outlook that somebody gave me. And if I can do it, a kid that graduated high school with like a 60 average, that didn't have a Regents diploma, that my counselor didn't want me to graduate, and now I'm an educator. I have a nonprofit, and I'm doing all these things. I'm a distinguished educator at that. I was just nominated as a distinguished educator just this year. If I'm doing all that, why can't you do it? You can do it. And I'm no different from you. I'm not better than you. I'm not better than the average kid from the hood. I'm not. If I can do it, you can do it.
Amen. Amen. I agree. And I've seen you go leaps and bounds. And, I tell people the same thing. If me as a pregnant teen with 13 credits could graduate and have a baby and still make a life, you can too. And I know some people's struggles and stories are more difficult, but it's not your definition.
It's not.
It's not the end of your story. It's a part of your journey.
Yeah.
Right. And what's dope about that is that your experiences and your hardships make you so much more relatable to the people that are going through it.
Absolutely.
If you didn't go through it, how could you then be believable to the people you're trying to bring through it? We wish we would have made better decisions, but then again, not really. Because it took all of that to get here.
It's the journey. It's the process. You gotta trust the process. And you're still, and like going back to what we said, you wake up every day. You have an opportunity to change that. We're no better than we came from farmers. Came from 118. Right by the rock.
Bars on the windows, bars in the staircases. It was real weird looking up. It's way different from my son's school, way different, and coming from where we come from with limited exposure in that circumference, and still being able to do it, anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. And I'm willing to provide a roadmap to make it happen. And that's what we need is the exposure.
Yeah.
Like, no, and I feel at times we don't feel capable because we don't see it. Like growing up, we didn't see it. Like, I can't say, as much as I said I wanted to be an X-ray technician, I didn't see that. Like, I wasn't exposed to it. I'm not saying I can't do it, but really, time is the fact of everything. Like, who is it? Not Bill Gates. What's the other dude name? It wasn't Bill Gates. I think it was Microsoft. Like, the amount of time that you spend in something, that's what you're gonna be good at. If you put your time into one thing, you're gonna yield the benefits of that. But it's all about what we put our time into. What are we putting our time into?
Right.
And we got to really start thinking about that. You become more of an expert of what you put your time into.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I think if we start changing our mindset of our capabilities and thinking about analyzing where our time is being spent, we can definitely change our trajectories.
Absolutely. I wish I could say I'm surprised at who you are today. I'm not surprised.
I know I am.
And I know that there are certain parts of your life that you just didn't see coming, but I mean, at the core of who you are, I'm not talking about what you're doing, but the core of who you are is the Ricardo that I saw as a child. Just uplifting, happy, empowering people, and an overall good person. I would be more surprised if you turned out angry and bitter. I really would. I'm not surprised that you are who you are today. I'm super excited about what you're doing with your nonprofit, with the cuisine, with Hood Fit. And I'd love to come to New York. I do actually have plans on coming to New York once this is over and doing some work with children out there. And I'd love to collaborate with Hood Educator.
Oh, absolutely.
And get some things going.
Please, definitely let me know. I'll definitely be down for that.
Awesome. Ricardo, thank you so much for being on today. It's absolutely a pleasure. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you, Keith. No, really, thank you. Thank you for having this forum. Thank you for really exposing the talents, people that are doing amazing things out there. I don't find myself as one person, but really showing that there are people out here that are really doing great things. And I think we need to really be exposing that more. And I thank you for using your platform for doing that, because we need to see more of that. And the more we see it, the more we really feel strongly about who we are and our own capabilities and what we can do and accomplish.
Yeah.
We're seeing people that look just like us doing those things.
We're out here.
So thank you. And I'm proud of you and what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Ricardo, thank you. And we'll have a follow-up down the line and see what you got going on.
Definitely.
Have a good one, Ricardo.
All right, you too, love. Thank you very much again.
Yes, you're welcome.
The managing partner at the firm that I work for, I'll never forget her. I swear I will never forget her. She was an Irish lady. Her name was Eileen Breslin. And she said to me, I was her paralegal. So she came to my desk one day and she said, you know what, Shoshana, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I just looked at her because I was like, right here. I'm thinking in my head like, well, where else am I going to be? I'm going to be right here. She was like, no, with your type of personality, you need to be a boss. I want this for you. This woman had so many aspirations for me that I didn't even know I had myself. And she was like, well, you need to create your own business. She was all about empowering women. She was like, I went to Yale Law School and I went for free. If you need anything, you need a sponsor, you need anything, you need me to write you a letter, I'm there. And at first, before I even know I needed a mentor, she was my mentor in my head. So to say all of that, you might already have a mentor that you don't even think that is your mentor. Anybody that is being positive or pushing you forward in a positive direction could be considered a mentor.
You're right.